The storm tore across the lake like a living thing, rain crashing down so hard it blurred the world into chaos. Lightning split the sky, turning night into white fire, and in that brief flash, a man stood knee-deep in the water, clutching an unconscious woman in his arms. His face was bruised, soaked, and streaked with mud, but his grip on her was unshakable. "Stay with me," he whispered, his voice trembling with both exhaustion and hope. "You're not dying on me tonight." That was how Jack Miller's story began, a man haunted by the past, thrust by fate into a storm that would uncover the truth he'd been running from for years. It was supposed to be a normal day, or as normal as things ever got for Jack. The first family reunion he'd attended since losing his wife. 5 long years of silence, of raising his daughter Lily alone, of pretending that the world hadn't stopped the day he came home from Afghanistan with more scars than medals. His sister had convinced him to come to the old lake cabin, promising laughter and healing, but all he'd felt since arriving was the quiet weight of memories. By afternoon, laughter had filled the air, children running around in rain boots, cousins teasing one another, the smell of barbecue clinging to the air. Jack almost smiled when he saw Lily laughing with her cousins, something he hadn't seen in years. Maybe, he thought, maybe this was what moving on looked like. But as thunder rolled across the sky, his chest tightened with that old familiar unease. Storms always did that to him. They reminded him of explosions, of chaos, of friends he couldn't save. When the rain began to pour, Jack offered to drive into town for more ice before the roads flooded. It felt good to have something to do. The wipers slapped at the windshield as the storm grew worse, lightning flashing across the black sky. Then, just as he rounded the curve by the lake, he saw the shape, a car half submerged at the edge of the water, headlights flickering like dying fireflies. Without thinking, Jack slammed the brakes and ran toward it. His boots hit the cold water, each step slower as the current pushed against him. Inside the car, he saw her, a woman slumped over the wheel, her long hair floating around her face. The driver's door was jammed. He shouted but got no response. Training kicked in. He grabbed a rock, smashed the window, and yanked the door open. Water poured in, soaking him as he pulled her free. He laid her on the shore and started CPR, whispering under his breath, come on, thunder boomed overhead. Then suddenly, she gasped, water spilling from her lips. Her eyes fluttered open, wide and frightened. "You're okay," he said, catching his breath. "You're safe now." She looked at him through the rain, disoriented. "Where am I?" "By Miller Lake," he answered. "You were in an accident." Her lips trembled. "I was trying to find someone," she whispered. "Someone important." Jack didn't press. She was cold and shaken, and all he could think about was getting her to warmth. He carried her back to the cabin, drenched to the bone. His family stared as he stepped inside, the unconscious woman in a torn red dress in his arms. Lily rushed to grab towels, and Jack's sister helped him settle the stranger by the fire. Her name was Emily. That was all she said before exhaustion claimed her. And though Jack had seen hundreds of faces over the years, something about her struck a chord deep inside him, a familiarity he couldn't explain. Later that night, when everyone had gone to bed, Jack sat alone on the porch, staring at the rain. The storm had passed, leaving the lake still and quiet, but his mind churned. He thought he'd left the battlefield behind, yet somehow, the same feeling of urgency still burned in him. A soft voice pulled him from his thoughts. "You saved my life." He turned to see Emily standing in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. The firelight from inside flickered across her face, making her eyes seem even more haunting. He shook his head. "Just did what anyone would." She stepped closer, shaking slightly. "Not everyone would have stopped in a storm like that." He didn't respond. He wasn't good with praise, especially for doing what felt like the bare minimum. Then she said something that made him freeze. "I know who you are." Jack turned slowly. "What did you say?" "My brother," she hesitated, eyes filling with tears. "My brother was Daniel Ross." "You served with him." The world seemed to stop. Daniel Ross, the name hit like a bullet. He saw flashes of sand, smoke, and Daniel's face, smiling one moment, lifeless the next. Jack swallowed hard. "Your brother, he was under my command." Emily nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "He talked about you in his letters. Said you were brave. Said you were the reason he believed he'd come home." Jack's voice cracked. "He didn't come home." He saved you, she whispered. That's what they told me. He died saving you. Jack turned away, gripping the porch railing. The memories he'd tried to bury came flooding back, the explosion, the dust, Daniel's blood on his hands. I was supposed to bring him back, he said, voice breaking. He trusted me. I failed him. Emily stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. No. You kept his promise. He told me if anything happened to him, he wanted me to find you. He said you'd need someone to remind you that it wasn't your fault. Jack's eyes met hers, wet with both rain and regret. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The night was quiet except for the distant hum of frogs by the lake. Finally, Emily whispered, maybe you didn't fail him, Jack. Maybe you just didn't know what he was saving you for. And in that single moment, something inside him shifted. The pain he'd carried for years didn't vanish, but it felt lighter, as if Daniel's spirit, through her, had finally found peace. When morning came, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in days. Lily came running down the porch steps, her laughter echoing across the water. Jack stood beside Emily, both of them holding mugs of coffee, watching the mist lift from the lake. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in years, Hope didn't feel like a stranger. Sometimes, fate doesn't bring people together by accident. Sometimes, it sends a storm to crash two broken lives into each other so they can finally help each other heal. Jack Miller, the veteran who had saved countless lives, finally realized that the woman he rescued from the storm wasn't just a stranger. She was the message he'd been waiting for, a reminder that even in the darkest storms, love and redemption can still find their way home.